Alrighty. Hello, my name is Evan Warren, and I'm here with my partner here.
Oh, sorry, it's Vega.
And we are going to be going over our Salesforce CRM portfolio presentation. And yeah, our vendor here is Front Range Coffee Supply and from Denver. And this project basically is a simulation of what it would look like to be able to manage a real Salesforce territory using applications like Salesforce as well as SmartFox. So our goal here wasn't really just to create the different accounts and opportunities, but it was actually to think as if we were someone who was responsible for managing the pipeline, the revenue, as well as the relationships. So everything we ended up building here, um, the accounts, the activities, contacts, the opportunities, it was designed to actually feel realistic, as if we were somebody that was actually in a real sales role, not just something that we're doing because, for an assignment just to meet the goals. So, let Osiris take the next one here.
Of course. So, of course, as you stated before, the company that we were working with was Front Range Coffee Supply. We were a independent roaster, a specialty coffee roaster that also supplied companies like bakeries and cafes and grocery stores with both the roasts and also like coffee supplies like filters and scoops and whisks and stuff like that. So stuff that they would need on the day to day, just to operate. We had a sister company called Rose City that was a baking supply company. They would supply stuff like equipment, but we did not specifically mention them or work with them in this project. But yeah, the territory of Denver is very diverse in terms of the options it has for a coffee roaster like ours. We chose different accounts, like places where we had like co-working spaces with a company called Shift Workspaces, as well as grocery stores that sold specialty, specifically like organic and fair trade coffee, like Whole Foods Market and natural grocers, as well as a multitude of different cafes and restaurants like Modern Market Eatery and Little Owl coffee roasters. So these different companies would have been ideally selecting us to um, distribute and sell their our roasts. And yeah,
All right, so moving on to the next slide here, we have our account overview. So on this here slide, we are actually focusing on how we structured our different accounts across the territory. So one of the biggest things that we ended up taking from this project is that all accounts don't really deserve the same amount of attention and time and dedication. So some of the accounts are actually meant to drive steady revenue and bring it in. And then there's other accounts which are more about growth and future potential and what it could be built up to. So here we have our key accounts, which are the most important ones that take more of our time and bring us a st more steady revenue income. So we have natural grocers, which was an existing account. We have Whole Foods Market, which was one of our prospects. And we also have Little Owl, which was another one of our existing customers, and if not our biggest income of revenue. So we also have our mid-tier accounts, which are Shift Workspaces, one of our prospects. We have the Weather Vane Cafe, one of our existing customers. We have Modern Market Eatery, another one of our existing customers, and Reunion Bakery, prospect, as well as the Quince Coffee House, which is a prospect. So I think we learned that if you pretty much treat every account the same as I was going on about before I introduced all the accounts, you kind of spread yourself too thin. And I think you don't spend enough time on the accounts that actually move the revenue. And I really think that this structure kind of helps prioritize the effort and it makes it easier to decide where we do follow-ups, meetings, and where the planning actually needs to be prioritized too. So I think from a real sales perspective, this is important because the time is limited. You know, your territory management, it's really all about deciding how you're going to use your time wisely. So moving on to the next slide here.
All right. This is a table that I built around the opportunities that we had, that we created for each of our 8 accounts. We had 8 opportunities for spread out between the 8 of them. Um, they are they're all different depending on the specific needs of each company. So we had some companies like some opportunities like the renewals, like contract renewals with natural grocers and Little Owl Coffee, where we are supplying them. We are like already supplying them with our roasts and stuff like that, as well as our coffee supplies. So these companies would then just be coming in, and we go ahead and put them through like the contract renewal process. We put all that information into SmartFox and Salesforce that we are checking off these boxes through our different SmartFox templates and moving the deal forward and letting it calculate the value as it moved along the pipeline. Um, we also have like our different statuses for each of the opportunities. So as you can see, some of them are closed won already. These were two of our largest, or rather, our key accounts that we had. And we had like one closed loss. So that to give an example, that we basically was like a practice to kind of learn where like the tab was to like determine if it was closed loss or closed won. Some of them, like the natural grocers one, we went ahead and did like a skip forward in that account, so people were able to see, or we were able to see like the account, like how that would look in the SmartFox like usage stuff, which we will talk about later. Um, and it also has this table also includes the numbers that SmartFox gave us, like the forecast value versus the weighted value. This doesn't go into the specific details, but this is when you remove like detailed rows. This is basically like the most basic information that it gives you about each opportunity, where it stands in the pipeline.
Yeah, and just add something on to you that kind of piggyback. Just
Yeah.
you'd mentioned Natural Grocers is where we did a skip stage, and I just wanted to say we also ended up doing a skip stage as well as a backwards pedal. We realized the deal wasn't ready. We
Yes.
ended up doing that on Little Owl. So go ahead and go on to the next slide here.
Yes, sir.
So this slide, kind of describing one of our hero accounts, which was Little Owl, as I was just saying. So, as I mentioned previously, Little Owl is one of our existing customers, and we made it especially important that it had both renewal as well as expansion potential. So, instead of us just viewing it as guaranteed business, we, I guess, kind of treated it as an account that we could either grow or kind of quietly just let be as is, depending on how it was really managed. So, as you can see, we kind of mapped out the buying roles here for this account, and that's because the decisions don't happen on, just people's titles. It kind of has more a deeper thing than that. So, Sarah, as you can see here, Sarah is the economic decision maker, and she kind of controls the budget, and I guess she has one of the most important roles here in this process. And Daniel he's more of an operational role. He is the economic buyer, and Maria is the evaluator or the product champion, and she's the one who typically deals with the product, interacts with it day by day, and um, has that kind of role going into things. So in real life sales, I would say that someone, I guess like Maria, if she isn't completely bought in, even though she isn't the top dog, the economic decision maker, she's the one dealing with it. So if she's not completely bought in to everything, then I guess the deals will probably stall and things won't completely go the way that the higher leadership really wants it to, even if they're bought in, but she's not. So I think this account here, it really shows why understanding the decision-making roles matters just as much as things like pricing or product or little things. So, yeah, moving on.
Yeah. And this is Natural Grocers. A lot of what he said with the previous account applies here as well in terms of the people. For this account, we had an extra focus on who had like a need, like basically a need to know basis with the different people that would have been in this store. The people who would be interacting with our product on a day to day basis would be the grocery team leader as well as the store and assistant team leaders. These people would be working with us to create like displays and advertisements around the store for our product, as well as the people who would be determining if we could sell the product in the store. Now, Natural Grocers ended up being one of our existing accounts, so what we did here was a contract renewal. This contract renewal was just going over the fact that we have already sold with them previously, and we are looking to continue to take this product and then just move it on to the next fiscal year. So they already knew the specific details. It went through their very rigorous testing because our goal was to sell the organic fair trade roasts that we would have had as a specialty roaster to this company, trying to pass all of their specifications that they would want for any product that they're selling in a store. It's very similar to what we would have also done with Whole Foods Market, as both companies have very strict guidelines as to what can and cannot be sold in their stores, which is why customers go to these companies, is to get very specialized, specific items that, it's a health food type thing. And as a specialty coffee roaster, an idea of having an organic and something that's fair trade, something that is good for the planet and good for growers, would be something that would be very appealing to a company like this. And we have also a bit of a focus on, like, in general with the other accounts that we have done, the decision makers would be different for each one. For example, for our cafes and restaurants, you would find that the people up there would be like owners, general managers, and order writers, so people who are ordering our product and want to know how much they're getting, when it's arriving, and stuff like that to keep themselves supplied, as well as people like rental agency managers. So for specifically shift workspaces, we would have been the rental agent, like manager, would have been somebody we would have been talking to go ahead and like distribute the coffee between the different communal workspaces that they have that they rent out, instead of like a owner or like a general manager type of thing. And yeah, that should be that for that slide.
Okay, so moving on here, kind of a bigger slide here. I mean, not really, as you can see, but a lot to explain, I guess, and unpack. So this slide really focuses on our SmartFox utilization as well as the milestone progress. And this whole thing is really about progress. I'm sorry, the process rather than the outcomes. So SmartFox, when you're working inside it, it doesn't necessarily allow you to move an opportunity forward unless the specific milestones are completed. And I think that kind of forces discipline into the sales process and makes you think more about things and be more cautious or however you want to say it. So I'll give an example. So before moving out of prospecting, you have to confirm that the account fits the ICP, identify a real decision maker, and if it establishes initial interest. And I'd say what this report shows is that we actually completed those milestones instead of just advancing stages, make the pipe look better. So it also shows you that different opportunities sit at different stages for different reasons, which I guess is realistic. It's how it would be in the real world and in a real sales role. So some, as you can imagine, some deals move more quickly because for whatever reason, there's already an existing relationship, or whatever the reason is, they've done business together in the past. And there's other businesses and opportunities that require more discovery, prospecting, and making sure they want to move forward or validation. So, from a manager's perspective, um, I think this slide is probably important because it shows whether the sales process is actually being followed as it should be according to how things are and how things are laid out. And it's not just whether the deals actually exist in the system. So, as you can see here, I'll kind of break down a little bit more. The SmartFox dashboards and the utilization reports, they were refreshed on SmartFox and CRM to actually reflect the current pipeline data and what we have as our future. So the milestones to move were completed before we advanced the opportunities through each stage. As I mentioned earlier, in Osiris did, we had, I believe it was natural grocers, which we skipped a stage on, and then Little Owl, we ended up going back and also skipping a stage on there. So, customer tracker and best practices, those questions kind of ensured the budget as well as the decision makers, those roles, and making sure that timing was all validated and good to go. The utilization data really helped identify the deal readiness, if the deals were ready to go, as well as preventing the premature stage advancement and jumping forward without everyone being on board. So, consistent SmartFox usage also improved the forecast accuracy as well as the pipeline visibility. So, overall, I believe that this demonstrates that SmartFox was used as kind of a process management tool and not just a place that we use to store our different opportunities, kind of show the whole process as a whole. So, move on to the next one here.
All right. This page basically shows all of the different opportunities, or rather activities, that we had tied to opportunities. Specifically, these are like the larger ones for Little Owl and Natural Grocers. So we did five different activities each. Um, all of these were around like advancing the sale. So, we had different things like meetings being scheduled and calls to answer questions and give updated information to our contacts. Some of them are like checklists that we made. So, for example, under Natural Grocers, you see send quote for shipping the Madeline. That would have been sent to the store leader of the company, where she would get like a quote basically at once. Since that one was a closed one, she would have been getting a quote after that, where she would be paying for like the shipping and everything. Um, we had the activities are reflecting our real relationship building that we would have had with these ideal, like, honestly hypothetical people, but it wasn't just like a one-time data entry. This thing would be probably like completely filled out with different activities, and each one is unique to each account. So all of these different things, they're all different people. They all have different numbers and different tasks associated with them that would have been directly tied to the opportunity that they had under them. And we also had like calendar events to show like upcoming meetings and product demos and stuff like that as well. And yeah.
Okay, so moving on to our second to last slide here. This slide shows our pipeline report as well as the pipeline insights and it shows the whole pipeline report, as I just mentioned, and it kind of gives a higher level view of our entire territory. So here, instead of just looking at the individual opportunities one at a time, this report kind of shows how deals are distributed across stages and how revenue is tied to each stage, such as prospecting, qualification, etc. And this this whole deal, the pipeline report, kind of makes it easier to access the overall pipeline health and if everything's on track. So I'll give an example here. If most of the deals are stuck in early stages or something, it usually points to, a qualification issue. And if deals are stuck in something like a later stage, then it usually has to do with something like pricing or timing or decision making or something as such. So I believe from a sales management perspective that this really helps with coaching as well as making sure the right things are prioritized. And I believe it also makes forecasting more realistic because the pipeline reflects the completed milestones instead of just a random guess or whatever it is, just your best guess. So I'd say overall, this report really helps turn the pipeline data into something that you can actually make decisions with and use for the greater good of your company. So, yeah, I believe this next one, we're going to be wrapping things up.
Yeah, so to go ahead and wrap things up nice and easy, yeah, we built a Salesforce territory with realistic accounts and contacts and opportunities for the metro area we were working in. We used the SmartFox milestones and milestones to like move stuff to go ahead and like manage the pipeline and push opportunities forward and get these deals closed. We also balanced the existing business with the new growth. We had a good mix of like prospects and existing business to work with. So we had a nice little like combination of those to try to make something that was like maybe a bit realistic for the type of scenario that we would be that we're developing here. And of course, we demonstrated how the CRM data supports the informed sales decision making. So, all this information about who we had to talk to, all these activities, everything's in Salesforce, and we'll be getting notifications if we logged in. So, we know how to see what needs to get done and see where certain opportunities are and how we can move them forward. And with that, that is the end of our presentation. Thank you, Evan, for everything you have done.
Thank you, Cyrus.
Of course.
Uh,
And we hope you have a good day.